It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and piercer discuss some of the more common questions that those that collect tattoos and piercings ask. And this one's kind of an uncommon question, as the commenter put it. We'll introduce the crew today. We have directly all the way over on my right is Jimmy St. John. Your left, next to me is Jack Lowe. Both of them of Skin Kitchen Tattoo. They both are professional tattoo artists.
As far as you know.
That's what I'm saying. Sticking to it.
And there's me. I'm DaVo. I do piercings of bodies and sell jewelry, and I'm also the owner of the Axiom part of it.
And cat wrangler with your apprentice.
Cat wrangler?
Yeah, wrangling cats. It's hard.
Yeah.
You ever heard of cats?
Yeah, I know. I've always, when I worked in live music, that was herding cats.
That's where you got your extensive practice at when you became.
I think wrangling and herding are pretty much the same thing. I think he just went a little more hillbilly.
Well,
Yeah.
I am redneck.
Kind of like the...
I'm from them. There are heels.
The heels version. This question comes from one of our viewers. Lope Rodriguez. I think that's how you pronounce that, right? L-U...
Lupe, yeah.
Lupe, okay. We're going to do two shows, and we're going to answer two of their questions. The first one is what's the most interesting tattoo you have ever given?
That's kind of a hard question, because interesting to who? I assume he would mean interesting to me or the person doing it.
What gets your things all tingly? And
when I was thinking about this, I thought, really most of the tattoos I do, I find very interesting. But I was thinking, interesting, what could that really mean? And I thought probably have the best story behind it, or, the most maybe meaning or time involved in it. So what I came up with, and there's been a ton, I could probably come up with 20 given enough time. But anyway, not that there wouldn't be more than 20, but it wouldn't take very long.
Yeah.
Anyways.
One for every year you've tattooed?
I guess one of somewhat recent ones I've done that I thought was very interesting was I had an AWACS pilot come in.
Okay.
And for people who don't know, an AWACS plane is basically a communications hub for all the planes in a certain area. So it goes up and it flies around, and so nobody, especially the bad guys, so the bad guys can't hear what we're saying to each other. We have our own, basically, a radio station flying around close by. So a plane says hello, it bounces off our AWACS and goes to the other plane. So anyway, it's a pretty interesting plane. Hopefully maybe you can throw up a picture of the AWACS.
It's basically kind of like a router for the air.
Yeah.
It's got a huge disc on it.
It's a standalone communications system, and it's also does other things like communicates between the planes in other manners. But anyway, it's a very interesting plane, and it's got a gigantic disc on the top of it. You really don't see pictures of them much anymore, but back in the day, it seems like I came across pictures of them more and more. Yeah. But anyway, it's a very, very unique plane, and it was really neat. And me being a pilot somewhat, I thought that side of it was really cool. And then to have him in the chair, have someone like that at your disposal for hours and hours and hours, and he can't run away. How many people get that opportunity to get somebody that is interesting to just be trapped?
Yeah, pick their brain a little bit.
So, it was really fun to talk to him. And in the tattoo, we not only did an AWACS plane, but we did some of his commendations and little medals and pins and stuff, and his wings and stuff like that on his sleeve. And so that was really, really interesting to me. And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I
probably get a super interesting tattoo at least once a month, roughly.
Yeah. Well,
I like all of them, but there's always some kind of connection or story. Like I worked on a lady who had breast cancer, and they had removed her breasts. And we did a whole phoenix on her whole front, tattooed her whole front instead of doing a boob job or nipples and whatnot. She went on and did, a tattoo for her whole front. And man, she was so proud, and it really, it really gave her a cool self picture of herself. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was really satisfying to be a part of that journey with her, and and a tribute to helping her feel,
Plus,
awesome because she's a badass.
and more interesting than like a tribal armband.
Well, yeah.
and it's partly because the phoenix also represents rebirth.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, a lot of cancer survivors
Absolutely
go through that. And I personally do not know what it would feel like. I hope I never.
There's an
have to.
AWACS. You found a picture.
Yeah.
Did you put that up on the screen? You should. That's
Trying to remember how to do it.
That's awesome.
It's one of them
Hit the right button. Hit the right button. Bam.
Hey.
That is the. Yeah, that is an
That's the
AWACS. So it's and they used to be. Yeah, I think it's like a 737 or 7
They used to use them a
series
lot.
Boeing.
yeah
And I believe, man, in my mind, that disc was even bigger than that. And maybe that's a newer type, but yeah, that's basically, I guess that's probably exactly what we use these days.
I just remember. I remember them being used a lot with drug war. But I want to say there's a version of this that just says radar, and it's like a low penetrating.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
they
they
used to
would
have the
fly
radar
high
planes over Colombia and
try
stuff.
to get the smaller planes that are trying to get underneath the national.
Oh,
defense
interesting.
Network. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
So it was in the news list. Thank you very much, Jessica.
yeah. One other one that
I've known too many Jessicas in my. It pops out occasionally. Jess, thank you.
One other one that pops out at me real quick is I did a full color back piece on a gal a while back, and it was a guy playing the cello, like out in the middle of the street out of this bombed out city. So there's just rubble walls going down this curved little lane, and there's this guy sitting in this wooden chair dressed in a black suit, playing the cello while like all this destruction is going on around. And I guess there's a relatively famous photo of this cellist who's sitting in the middle of this war-torn city. And I can't remember what battle it was a part of or even the general war. I think it was a smaller kind of a skirmish or war, like maybe in Poland or something kind of comes up, but I can't remember exactly. But anyway, it wouldn't be too long to to Google it and look at this thing. But anyway, as far as interesting goes, again, you could have a full floral back piece. It could be beautiful. It could be gorgeous. It could, be incredible. But interesting, unless there's like a story or it's something that almost makes you ask, what, so what is that?
Why are you doing this? Yeah.
It doesn't, flowers, why, because it's gorgeous.
Right.
But to have this cellist sitting in the middle of a war-torn city, that's not a real common image
it's like
that
the
you
guys
see.
playing on the Titanic before it goes down.
So when you see it, it makes you, you're interested, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like a symbol of
yeah,
positivity.
yeah, that's the picture I'm pretty sure that I went off of. What does it say quickly? What war it was, or
Okay.
Iraq? Yeah. So, yeah, we went off that photo and we did it a little more surrealistic. So it wasn't like a portrait of him, but it's very much that man playing that cello.
Which one of the Caesars played the fiddle while the Rome burned?
Supposedly
was it Nero?
Nero.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
That's kind of what popped in my head, just thinking about that, playing, a musician playing, the city's burning, being destroyed.
Like the Titanic, as it's going down, the musicians are just,
You could look at it that way. Or
well,
you
they
could
played
also,
to keep everybody calm
yeah.
and whatnot. But
You could also look at it as kind of like the flower in the middle of the bomb crater.
Right.
That beauty still exists even in the worst
Yep.
situation.
Yeah.
it'll keep coming back.
And I think that was part of that cello story. He's like, I didn't want people to think it was all bad. People just lost their family members and their homes and everything. But you hear this beautiful music bouncing off of what's left of the walls.
there's
It
a little
kind
bit
of
of hope.
reminds you that, it's like seeing that flower in the desert kind of deal. But yeah, that's interesting.
Very.
Interesting stuff. So a lot of it comes down to what the symbolism behind it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
And I
story
think-
with it and connected to it.
I think we've all had somebody, an elder in our family, that you would go to their house and there was objects that I had a couple great uncles that were like, and aunts that were like that, or my grandmother, where you'd ask them about like, what's that thing? And they would start to describe the story that was behind it.
Yeah.
I always think of Throw Mama from the Train.
Yeah.
I know it seems like a weird reference, but go with me on this one. His rock collection, was it pennies or was it rocks? It was his coin collection.
Coins.
He kept going on and on and on about this coin collection throughout the whole thing, and he starts pulling it out, and this is like when I went here, and this is when this happened, and this is when this happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I think tattoos, when they're at their heart, that's kind of
what
where
they
they
are.
are.
Yeah, stickers on that trunk that you took with you all over the
Yeah,
seas.
the little time capsules.
And yeah, you can't record that trip or whatever, but you can have that memento that reminds you of that trip. So whenever you look at it, even if it's just for a second, it reminds you of where you've been and
that whole thing.
What you learned while you were there.
I think we covered that one pretty well. So how about from a technical standpoint, what do you find most interesting? Like any particular form of art that excites you?
You mean outside of tattooing?
Well, tattooing in art, we could expand it into that too.
Well, I just like as far as styles go, because a lot of my work tends to be black and gray. I feel like I have to turn on another processor more when I'm doing color.
Yeah.
Not that I feel that it's hard or whatever, but it's, the more you do something, the more automatic it gets, and the less you really, remember having to think about it. So with not doing as much color, especially lately, which is okay. I like doing everything, but I've just noticed lately that when I do color, it definitely I have to pay more attention and really kind of think through because it's not so automatic as it maybe was.
I've been doing more pieces of people coming in with like illustrative pieces, like sketchy pieces that some artists have done, and it's got like a billion lines in it, or certain lines are like kind of messy and this and that, and it goes kind of against everything you've learned as a tattooer. Make it clean, solid, out the lines, and to do this stuff, it really takes you out of your element for a minute, and you have to put some thought into it,
Because it's more abstract.
Where is this line at, and how thick does this need to be? Because if it's not the right thickness or thinness against this line, then you lose the whole effect of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, when 99.9% of the tattoos that you do the lines in, they're supposed to be nice, they're supposed to be straight, or have a beautiful curve to it, and then now you're tattooing something so chaotic.
Yep.
You really have to fight your brain.
Yeah,
I've done a few of those lately, and it's more of a challenge to me, but it's still fun.
And you're basically fighting the motor skill.
Absolutely.
Because and I would assume that I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people that are initially starting out with tattooing is transferring that look, that style into the skin.
Yes.
With those materials, because unless you know how to do it, and that's why apprenticeship is very important, boys and girls.
Well, and I wonder how many painters get the request to make the painting look like a charcoal drawing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't really happen that much.
The watercolor craze that went on for a while there. Like, man,
I think we're the only...
scrambled my brain for a minute.
And I know it happens in painting and stuff because painting is such a wide swath. But really think about how often does a particular artist get asked to make it look like another type of art.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's all we do.
Yeah, it's pretty much, everything.
I'd always say that the closest it would be a commercial artist.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that is basically going, one day they're doing watercolor-based stuff.
Yeah, but those are all disciplines that they do. They're not, they don't do watercolor and go, but I want this watercolor to look like it was oil painting.
Yeah, like today I got to do a Jackson
That's what
Pollock.
I mean,
Yeah, today I'm doing a Jackson Pollock. Tomorrow I'm doing a Rembrandt. The next day I'm doing Michelangelo, then a Norman Rockwell, then
those are all pretty
Dali,
close. You need to have better example.
Well, then you got a Dali, or you got a what's some other? I'm not an abstract art.
Well, how about a Donald Duck one day, and a Renoir, reproduction the next, and then a tribal.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about Pollock, because his was just the splatters and
go from make a Rembrandt look like a Monet.
No, it's just make it.
Yeah, I mean.
But just going from
but it's more making this
Rembrandt,
painting look like it's drawing. How often do you go to a painter and go, but I want it to look like a pencil sketch done with paint?
Or you're doing a Renaissance work like the Sistine Chapel, and then you're doing like abstract, a bunch of splatters and dots, like totally different universes.
Yeah,
but that's part of the reason tattooing is still so fucking fun after 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always
you never know what you're going to do.
Yeah, and the canvas isn't the same,
and always increasingly more challenging.
Yep.
In ways that I think with piercings, everybody's always it's the same thing over and over again. It's the anatomy that changes, and that's the part most.
That's the interesting part.
That's the interesting part.
Absolutely.
And with tattooing, it's like you're not only dealing with the anatomy, but you're also dealing with different personality, but you're also dealing with these different art forms. And those have been, there's these trends, but at the same time, a lot of what people were attempting to do with tattoos, if you would have went back to 1950 and went to one of those guys and say, hey, I want a watercolor version, they would have went,
they'd have told you to beat it.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes tattooing to me so interesting. It's like a grab bag. You go in every day and like, okay, close your eyes and reach in this bag, get a canvas. Close your eyes in this bag and get the art. Close your eyes and get in this bag, this, and then you got to put all these together and make it work.
It's very true.
It's like Chopped or whatever.
And one day you'll
be a basket of whatever.
And one day you'll be doing something that's blood and guts, and the next day you'll be doing something
Angels
that's gorgeous and beautiful and that's happy, and it really
it always changes.
It's but that's what keeps it fun. I think
that's why I love it.
I'm sure I know for a fact there's some, but I'm sure there's quite a few artists out there that feel pigeonholed. Like they wanted to be this famous guy who was known for this or that, and then when that happens, they just have to do that same tattoo over and over again. And there's, and I'm sure that makes some people happy, but I'm sure there's other people that go, well,
it would drive me insane.
This other stuff would be fun, but now I'm so inundated with people that want this same tattoo again.
That's what you do.
And it starts to get boring and annoying. And,
and nobody's asking for anything different because that's what you're known for.
Right. Yeah. Well, we come to you for this because that's what you do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but we need to find it in ourselves too, to find those people to do those different tattoos on and push them out there to go, look,
I can do other
I'm
stuff.
that guy who usually does this, but I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And start to change the gears. But I think it's seductive, when you've got this big following, you don't want to, screw it up. You start relying on making an X amount and you got bills to pay and you got, you kind of worked yourself into this tight
adulthood
spot.
Gets up with you.
So I want to stay and keep staying as versatile and, doing all, crazy different styles, even though I have kind of this solid nucleus of, semi-realistic black and gray type detailed work. But that means that people that get that stuff know people that don't necessarily want that stuff, but they're going to get sent to me. And so it keeps it fun.
Mm-hmm. And it has changed because there was a time when people are, and I get asked all the time because, I'll have clients in, they're interested in tattooing too. And they'll go, I want to get this style. Who should I pick? And I
look at their work.
I don't really struggle with it anymore because I just go, all three of them are capable of that.
Yeah.
And if they aren't capable of it, they're going to tell you they aren't capable of it. And they're going to go, hey, you want Jimmy or you want Jack to do that one or you want Brent to do that one. It's changed in that way. But I think that you guys having that diversity and you guys' background is a major plus. And I think that's really that's going to be the future of tattoo.
I've noticed now, too, that we'll have a customer that's been a Skin Kitchen customer for years. Yeah. They've got stuff from Jack and they'll get stuff from Brent. And then they'll come like, hey, man, can you do this on me? I really wanted a piece by you. And they want all of us to tattoo, which is so amazing. And that's awesome.
And those are people that fall under the collector side of getting tattoos. It's like, collecting cards or anything, they enjoy getting a piece just because of the story of it being this person at this time means as much to them as, I had a new baby and I want to get that. Yeah, it's like they're collecting art pieces. It's just, people that
characters
like a certain type of art, and there's this array of people that create it, and it's fun for them to go, this was John, this was Joe, this was Jeff, this was Jerry.
And every one of them's a different character, just like their tattoos, each one are different.
And again, it's that
important to them.
It's that steamer trunk aspect too that, I'm sure they visited a lot of different places and had a lot of different exciting things happen in their travels while they got those tattoos. So, they just put that extra kind of meaning into it as, they don't necessarily want to get worked on. And how many times do you hear this, Jimmy, all the time? Like, I'm never going into anybody else.
I've heard that
You're
a lot.
my guy. So there is something to be said about that side. But, some people don't want their every piece to look
the same.
Related.
And they want to have that different experience. They want to meet somebody.
Yeah,
that they
personality
admire
too.
And spend some time with.
That's part. Yeah, and that's
part of it.
Just as important as probably a lot of times more important than what the image actually is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times a person will come to you that's a fan of yours or just wants to get a piece because they like your overall artwork. It doesn't really matter. Just I want you to do something that's fun for you because it's just going to be fun for me to wear it, and I'm going to know that it came out of your brains.
Yeah.
That I got a little piece of you that no one else has. So they get a lot out of that side.
I get customers for my personality.
Sure.
Like Brent's tattooed a couple of the ladies at the Casey's at the corner, and every time I go in there, they're like, "Oh, you're the funny one, or you're the one
Right.
that this or that," and like,
He's the funny one.
I tell jokes and sing and carry on when we're tattooing.
I know.
I'm the old school tattooer. I put a show on.
Yeah.
You're
And
here for,
and I think
experience.
that's, that all matters because that's important and it weighs out heavier for some people than others, know. So, I think trying to make the customer have a great experience from every angle possible is
the goal.
good for everyone involved.
I agree.
This next part of it, because I think it falls on the same line. I'm going to say this to the audience flat out. Don't walk into a tattoo studio and say, do whatever you want. I just want that
unless you have some sort of relationship built with that artist.
Exactly, and you know exactly what you're getting. It's really annoying when I just want a tattoo. So I don't want to say that, but if you guys were given the opportunity and somebody came in and said, you know what, I have an arm, I want to do a sleeve. What would interest you guys to do right now? What's a project that would really get you guys excited to start on?
I'm already doing somebody that I'm in love with.
I know. I'm sure there's a
doing-
few current clients that
I'm
you're
a
already
big
doing
fan
that.
of black and gray. I like doing ocean life. I like doing the Viking stuff. I like doing
I thought I turned that off.
Indians, warriors, like, mechanical stuff. Like, all that stuff to me is just super fascinating. I love doing it.
Yeah.
I just love to do it.
That's super hard.
I know it is. That's
What
why
I would what I would do and what I have done if I don't have a relationship with this person, they just kind of came in, hey man, I got money to spend on getting a sleeve, and I've seen your stuff, I like what you do, and I'm just gonna let you do whatever. I just don't want any zebras, watermelons, or compasses, but.
Okay.
Because those are my bugaboos. I get it.
9 times out of 10, if you let me do whatever I want, it's going to be a skull involved somewhere too.
So
that's not surprising.
if I would get to know them a bit, I'd have a quick interview with them. So what do you do? Oh, I'm a data entry. I've been doing that for 6-8 years, and da-da-da-da-da. Well, what are your hobbies? What do you do when you're not? I don't know. I have some drones. I like flying drones. I game a bit. Okay, so he's kind of the techie side. So, okay, what's kind of techie and cool and geary? All right, so are you into kind of sci-fi stuff, or are you, what's, so you kind of get to know their personality. Because I don't want to put fucking mutant alien armor sleeve on a guy who...
redneck hunting, fishing, farming guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
I want it's like I'm tailoring a suit for someone,
Yeah.
So I want to. That suit needs to be you.
Yeah. Are you
Say
gonna
who
dance
you
in
are.
that suit?
Some people. Some people you're going to put pinstripes on, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some people you're going to
not.
put something nice and subtle. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it just kind of depends on what you want it to say, and that person's not going to be comfortable in it if it's not talking for them.
Right.
So I want that tattoo to be the same way for them. So I at least get an overall feel. So, okay, he's kind of a techie guy. I might think of kind of some sort of cyborgish, futuristic looking kind of sleeve where, maybe we can turn him into kind of a piece of technology because he seems kind of be,
That's what he's into it. Yeah.
like that kind of culture. So then I know he's getting something that he's going to go, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got tons of fun doing it. Plus,
Absolutely.
I got to make him go, whoa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the seat analogy is a good one because we've all had one piece of clothing in our life where you put it on and you went, nah, I can't pull this up.
Right.
Nope. It looks
And
cool in
it's
a
important to know
magazine,
your
but
limits.
And people will say, "Oh, that looks good on you," and you're like, "You don't even you don't know
you
me."
don't know me.
Because I look like a buffoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess what I was trying to get at is there. I know you guys draw outside of when you have time.
Yeah, we're always doodling or
Outside
every day.
of
When we-
your regular
we're not drawing for
requirements.
customers.
Yeah. Do you guys have any special pieces right now that you'd like to just start on?
oh yeah,
I've got a few.
That would be. I think that was kind of the direction I was trying to go.
Yeah, I've got a few.
I think I've got a couple, 2-3 things that I've drawn that I'd really like to put on skin. Remind me, and I'll throw them at you, and then
Okay.
you can maybe pop them up quick, and
As long
we'll
as
see.
they're PG.
Oh well, then no, I don't have anything.
This is because I say this because this wall's got a very graphic one that he drew up for somebody, and they said they wouldn't get it. And then there's another one.
I did.
Yeah, the
the
Viking.
Viking.
Oh, the Viking one. Yeah, that was a joke. That was a good story.
But the other one that's on the wall, which is the penis
It's been
Medusa,
yeah,
we have a very
Dick
unique.
Dusa.
I'll give you a picture of that too. You can blur out at will, which is probably it'll just be a giant
To
blur.
be honest
really.
with you, people will just
Maybe
Just
just
the top of
give
her
him
head
a
all
link
blurred.
or something to my. Where did I post
the
that?
face.
I never posted a picture of
I
it.
don't think you.
I don't think you
Now
did.
that I've done it, I'm not afraid of someone like
Seeing it, yeah.
kind of stealing it or whatever.
But what I'm getting at is every tattoo artist has like their own little thing, their own little sketch pad where they're drawing
Yeah.
up things.
That's a good point.
I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head that's in my iPad now that I drew, just kind of messing around. Didn't really have something I had to draw because I'd already done my customer's work, and
Or it was stuff you kind of started and then maybe the customer went some other
Yeah,
and you didn't
right.
finish
They went a
it,
different direction,
but you were
yeah.
really liking it, so you
Yeah.
kind of took it
I've
and
got one
finished
piece
it off.
I just did like that, as a matter of fact. That
Yeah.
the Caesar piece that I drew.
Right.
And I've feverishly worked on that to try to get it all the way to the end, and nobody wants
Well,
it.
it's
I
like-
just wanted to do it.
Somebody
like-
will one day.
It's kind of like when you're doing research to build something new, you're spitballing and you're working towards this final product, but along the way, ooh,
This'll be awesome.
this wasn't the idea
Yeah.
to make this piece of paper with this sticky stuff on it so you can just make quick notes.
The happy
but,
accident.
But something like that
Exactly.
was really handy when we were
Yeah.
building this motorcycle.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So it's the same thing with art when we're throwing
Yeah.
out ideas and kind of spitballing and
Yeah.
we're just kind of letting our brain rattle around and, sometimes you'll have those little happy accidents as
Yeah, because we were told that's what happened. I was consulting with the customer, and we were spitballing around to get some ideas of what direction he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And once we finally wound up on one, we have this whole other thing. But this is one of the spitballs that kind of stuck in my head, and I was like, man, that could really be a cool piece of art, if nothing else. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
And
I've
whether-
got a few pieces like that.
Yeah. So, and, it's either someone will come in and they don't really know what they want, but they're kind of talking in that direction. You can go, hey, I've got this drawing. It, kind of came together. Show it to them.
Yeah,
you
what
might
do
be
you
able to
think?
sell it, or, something like this situation, hey, throw it up, see if it sticks.
And I always think worst case scenario, maybe I print it out on the printer one day and hang it on my wall because I think
Yeah.
it's cool.
Because like
Yeah.
there
What'd you
are,
lose?
we
Yeah.
do have
Nothing.
our pieces around the studio that
Yeah.
are done that way.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the finished art were like, sometimes I'll draw up something for a client. I know they want it black and gray or whatever. But I'm looking at it and go, it'd be fun just to color this,
Yeah.
someone might have fun with a coloring book. It's kind of the same thing, but it's your own stuff really. And even though I know it's not going to be used,
Still fun to
because
do.
it's just fun to do it.
Yeah.
Good
you know,
exercise.
Or if, a client comes in and says, oh, I want a barn and I want this horse kind of standing by the barn and this and that. Well, okay, cool. And we do that, but that might go, if this was done in this, or man, maybe if it turns into outer space and you have a UFO, so you're always kind of developing or taking pieces of something that sprouts into something else.
Oh,
and,
totally. That's the fun part about it, though.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about when we close, because usually we work till 8 o'clock. That's where our hours are.
Mm-hmm.
And then from 8 o'clock until anywhere between 10 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
me and Jack and Brent will sit here and draw and paint and color and shade on our iPads.
There's times I'll come in at I'll get here around noon. I'll leave at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yep.
I'll get home at 5. I'll get up at 10
And come back here.
and come back here.
By noon.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I do it all
I'm
the
like,
time.
I drove 4 hours today to go sleep.
Yep.
most of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and-
Yeah, my wife gets a little upset with me sometimes. I'm
And
working
it's
on
funny
it.
because
Yeah.
People are like when they come over to the apartment, they're like, "Don't you ever clean?" And it's like,
I don't have
I'm
time.
not here to clean this.
But that's the
don't
fun
mind
part
it.
about doing it after work, because when you go home and you've got this idea in your head, that's what you're going to do. Is that
That's
idea?
when you're stimulated.
But when I'm at work and there's all this stimulation around me, plus my other fellow artists, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing this octopus." Oh man, it'd be cool is if like he was attacking some ship and like pulled it down to the bottom. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then you throw that in, and then the other guy goes, "Well, what if there was a shark coming or whatever?" It's just it builds, and it's really
Yes.
exhilarating because you're like, I didn't even think of that stuff, and it just
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I got to get that down.
yeah. Now I got to
Yeah.
put that down because that's so amazing. They might not get it, but it's still cool.
Right.
It might be an interesting episode at some point to just have people comment, like, it starts out with a shark and then a shark with a bikini and just like have do like 20 or 50, and then basically just pass it around between the artists and have each one of them add that little part.
We used to do that.
those are great exercises.
Yeah, we used to do that.
I think that would be fun to watch.
Yep, one person gets 10 minutes, you draw, and then you pass to the next person. And
those can be good when you're kind of hitting a flat spot and you feel like you're drawing the same thing all the time, and you kind of get in this rhythm for some reason. And those are really good because it kind of forces you to get outside of that stuck.
And part of that, I know that it seems like, at least to me, because I usually am at the tail end of it, I get to see things occasionally, or I'll stick my head in. I don't know. With piercing, it goes through phases. It just seems like you have a day where you do like one primary piercing and maybe one other one that isn't. And I think with tattooing, you guys kind of go through these phases, especially Brent was like, he's doing nothing but flowers for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a good exercise to get in there, but at the same time, it really makes you appreciate that other tattoo that comes in.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's outside of that.
Yeah. But doing that can get you, I don't know if maybe tattoo, well, yeah, I guess it could, because if you're doing that all the time, that means that's what you're drawing most of the time to prepare and everything else. So,
right.
And then you look at your sketch pad when you get a few hours to draw for enjoyment or for practice, and all you can think of is freaking flowers.
Yeah, you're like, what else? I want to draw something different.
Like, yeah.
Which makes me wonder if, somebody that's famous for like a particular style, if it might be very interesting to just go to them and go, hey, I want this, which is completely on the other side of their genre. I think it would probably excite them with that challenge.
When I used to work conventions and travel conventions, I would go around to artists that I knew and like really liked their work, and I would go, hey man, what have you drawn up lately that you haven't gotten to do that you want to do it? You drew it because you wanted to. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, let me see what you got. And they'll like have 2 or 3 sheets or references, and you're like, I want that. Why haven't you put that out? Like, well, I didn't think anybody wanted it. Well, that's awesome. I want that,
Right.
And I think maybe getting stuck in that I'm famous for this phase.
And that's what happens to them. They
cater to the.
I don't do that.
It's kind of like the band that's been putting out the same 4 records.
Exactly.
Because it's safe and easy, or maybe they want to cater to their fans.
They're afraid their fans are going to get angry with them. And
they're afraid they're going to lose it.
And that's where the sweet spot is. That's where the money is. That's where now you're a rock star. And do you get pissed at it and rebel against it and try to destroy it because it's not what you wanted? Or do you go, man, this ain't bad, and I might not be having this fun with each tattoo, but I'm doing a tattoo.
Yeah.
And, I'm able to charge X amount. So, and I don't fault anybody on either side at all. I'm just saying that's
for a reference.
That's a choice, that some people unfortunately have to make, if you look, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. But what we were thinking about would be a really neat exercise that just kind of we stumbled across one night is I had this kind of strange request of, usually they'll give us some subject matter and tell us where they want it, and then we have to, tailor it to fit. Yeah. So I had some kind of weird things, and I didn't want to think that I was getting stuck in a pattern to where I was putting things, formulaically, like putting it just into that same machine, getting the same thing out kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I asked Jimmy, I was like, what would you do if the client, wanted this stuff and wanted it here? And I was just meaning to talk about it, but like one thing led to another. An hour later, he goes, here, this is what I do. And he had drawn up an entire line drawing, like set up, ready to stencil line drawing of a freaking tattoo. Like,
so all you need to do is put Jack on the bottom of
right?
it. And just
but it was
turned it into teacher.
But but it was completely a different perspective on that same tattoo.
We've been exercising that lately, and man, it helped. You did the same thing for me the other day because I had a customer said, I want this, this, and this. Do however you're going to make it do. Mm-hmm. So I sketched some up, and he was like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not what I want. And I'm like, well, you said to make it what, you didn't even know how it would go together. And instead of getting hung up on that, just going, I went to Jack and I was like, hey, so
what would you,
if you were told to put these things together, how would you do it? So he drew something up and I was like, oh man, like boom, light bulb goes off. That's a totally cool way to do it. I didn't think of that.
And then you learn how other people and their perspectives. So when you do get a challenge or you do get something, you're going to have kind of this bigger toolbox to choose from to see what would apply.
And it's so much fun.
And see, the base of all art is perspective. It's seeing the artist's perspective of that design.
Right.
And good art, when it's there, you're going to have possibly an entirely different perspective on their perspective, but that's kind of the deal.
But it keeps it fun too, to where we're not pumping out the same tattoo just with different, focal points or something.
Right.
So it's so beneficial. You know, how many artists out there get to work close with other artists that they can have that kind of time with and get that perspective and learn off of each other. You know, a lot of times
it's priceless to me.
They're stuck on, a way and what they're doing and don't have that resource to be able to tap into basically whenever you want.
Yeah, it's easy to get that tunnel vision and get stuck.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is the advantage of being in a shop with other artists, because I see a lot of artists that they'll go off and I'm just going to have my solo shop because I don't get along with anybody, and I'm tired of giving my money to other people.
There's something to say for that,
but there's some drawbacks too.
Yeah,
I think it's harder to grow and harder to be challenged. I think you have to take almost an active role to keep challenged.
Yeah.
Whether that's doing shows and everything else. And if you are a one-man show, it's a lot easier to do that because you don't have to disrupt so much, and there's not so much, the show is you. So, but on the other side, you have to spend time and energy on finding that, where in a studio where you have 2, 3, 5, who knows these days, guys, that you've got all these wells to draw from. And it's awesome. A shame not to take advantage of that.
And I think if you're looking for an apprenticeship in tattooing, piercing, maybe to a degree too, I think it's kind of important to find a shop where there's 3 or 4 artists that you can bounce ideas off and learn from, because they all have different training. They're all probably in different parts of their career, and they have a different perspective on how things should be done, customer service, everything. Yeah. So that's a good thing to maybe look for. But
the other side of that is then the student can get very confused. Yeah. So, it's...
You got to pick a master.
Right. And because, what Jim's telling you, not wrong at all. That is a technique and it works. But I have to teach you at least one, so then you can learn all the others.
Right.
Yeah. I can't have you learning 3 or 4 techniques at the same time.
Exactly.
You have to master one, and then you can grow. You can't, pick what fruit you want without putting the seed in the freaking ground.
Exactly. You got to start. You have to have a base.
That can be a bit of a challenge, because when a student comes in, they just want to learn, man.
Yeah.
When I came up as an apprentice, we had 2 shops with multiple artists at both shops, and kind of like you're saying, I stayed trained on what my teacher was teaching me, my mentor, but I also observed how other artists, their artwork, how they treated customers, how they handled their business, how they, their work ethic. And you learn a lot of things that are good and, like common in between the guys that are good.
Right.
And you'll see some of the guys that aren't so good, and you can pick out what not to do, so to speak. Like, this guy, is constantly in trouble. He's always late. Or he doesn't have his work. He's disheveled. His stuff's a mess. He's you see things of hey man, if you're lazy or you let this happen, it can be a pitfall. Don't fall into those. Be aware.
Right.
Because it's easy to get caught up in that stuff.
Yeah, and I've used a lot of people in my life as that example. It's and I get that from Sherry, because, long story short, she apprenticed very shortly under somebody who was a total kind of criminal. And she would go through that, every time somebody brought it up, she'd be like, oh, yeah, I learned lots of things from him. If you're going to steal somebody's truck because they owe you money, don't park it in front of the shop.
Yeah.
Stuff like, if you're going to cook meth, don't do it in the basement of your studio.
Yeah.
If you're going to try to launder money, don't do, and
go to the laundromat.
Yeah. Exactly. But and this is one of the things I noticed with Shannon, that I really was kind of getting an idea or feeling good about her progressing, is you do have to master that, at least that basic skill originally, and get to the point where it's second nature. Because she said to me, she's like, oh, I feel like I could do that in my sleep now. And that's because she's done enough of them, done that repeated movement enough.
Yeah.
And until you get there, you got to have something to build on.
Exactly. Right. You got to have a base to build.
Yeah, you have all these different people going, watching, and, because I encourage, when I took apprentices, I encourage them, watch. Yeah. Just observe. Don't ask them about what they're doing. Ask me about what they're doing. Then I can explain, that's a technique, this is how it works, but I don't want you to do that technique right now. I want you to learn this technique because that technique is rooted in this technique.
Exactly.
So learning this technique, yeah, you could do it, but it's going to take longer.
Right.
And you're not going to be as good at it as soon as you would be if you learned this technique as a base to build off of to get to that one.
Exactly.
And it's going to be harder to learn this technique after you've already learned that one.
It's like trying to learn to read without learning the alphabet.
Right. And it's so hard to get that across to younger people a lot of times because they think, you know, and they're not listening when there really is, rhyme. There is reason behind it. And I wish we could hit people legally.
Well, it's like when you're a kid, you want to ride your bicycle. You see the bigger kids up the street riding bicycles and pulling wheelies. And you're like, I want to ride a bicycle like that. And your dad gives you one with training wheels. You're like, they don't got these on theirs. Well, I can either give you the training wheels and you can learn how to ride it, or I can take them off and let you try to do the stuff they're doing and pay for a bunch of broken bones and stitches.
No, I would have said,
and
but
you're going to give up
but
on
you're
it way
healing those
before
broken bones natural. I ain't paying for it.
Well, I mean, you know, and you
They might be this way, or they might
and
be
in
that
that
way.
experience, most people would give up because of the frustration and discouragement
Right.
from just trying failure. So I'm trying to save you from getting frustrated and throwing it down by teaching you the basics that you can then build off of. That's
it's
kind of the
frustrating. You know, the kind of person it takes to actually think that they could tattoo, because there's a lot of mental barriers and things that go with this art that don't necessarily go with some others. So it's usually the type of person that is going to get that far is going to be kind of a stubborn asshole.
Yeah,
you know, really.
Absolutely.
Very headstrong, very independent, and, hungry. So trying to keep a person that in a way kind of needs to have a certain amount of that to be successful in this career, in my opinion, is detrimental to you when I'm trying to frickin' teach you something.
It almost works against you.
And so it's tricky to...
It's a very fine mix
sometimes, but I guess that's a
well. I hope we answered your question.
Yeah,
we got another one coming for the next episode in 2 weeks. Oh, Jess has something to say.
So if he's gonna put up the Dick Deusa, gotta tell the story.
The Dick Deusa?
Okay.
You can't just put it up.
Okay, I will. So I have a friend, and it's a girl. And she likes fellatio a lot. And God bless her for it. We're just good friends, have been for years and years. And we used to travel together. Anyway, so I would find her talking about either, giving head, techniques. She was going to start a website for women to make it more. I mean, I of course support all of this.
Yes, she's always in the planning stage.
And I think she's one of those people that has a million incredible ideas, but has them so often that she never has time to get to any of them.
Yeah.
So, and I can somehow relate. I don't know how great they are. So anyway, one day she was talking about it, and I was, I'd had enough, I guess, at least that day. And I said, you need to be like Medusa, but instead of a bunch of snakes on your head, you need a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
So whenever you feel like sucking a dick, you can just pull one down and just give her a good old suck, whenever you want. Yeah. And then I got this picture in my head, and it was pretty funny, but kind of brilliant because I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that. I'm sure it has been done.
Probably.
It has to be. I mean, it's in the 70s. Definitely. Like there is
all hairy and bushy.
There's a cartoons magazine or some like heavy metal or
something in pen.
Uncircumcised.
Or probably it's
stuff.
More on the hustler side though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure. You know what? That's a good point. I bet there's a cartoon in a Hustler or a Cherry magazine or something.
Maybe you just stole it from them.
So yeah, well, no, I didn't steal it. It organically came to me, but that doesn't mean it can't organically come to 1,000 people.
Well, pornography is very it sticks with you.
But it's one of those ideas that somebody had to have it first. So maybe, because I'd never seen it, but I haven't seen most of the artwork on the planet, I'm sure. So anyway, I drew it up, and the person that it was drawn up for absolutely loved it and said that she was going to get it tattooed, and I believed her. Normally I wouldn't, but
she finally got it. How long?
But I believe
it took a while.
It did. Well, she's a really busy lady, single mother, and
school teacher,
crazy
she's an
kids,
awesome lady,
and all that. So anyway, finally the timing ended up right, and I did tattoo it on her. And that's the result of it. I was really happy with it.
I thought it looked awesome.
One of the behind the scenes factoids about it is I did it with a very, very small color palette, and I think I had red, blue, yellow, and then I had black and white. Yeah. So
I think that was it.
Yeah, I mixed every single color in there.
Yeah, because
I mixed
pinks
it
and
like
greens and all kinds of stuff.
It's like flesh tones and browns and all these greens,
all these crazy colors.
and I just totally primary colored
That's
it.
awesome.
So I think it taught me something. I need to not get all these fun sounding colors because they just
so cool.
they just confuse me. Like, but
Yeah.
I get there, but I just mix it,
Yeah,
until I see
totally.
it. But then anyway, so she ended up getting it tattooed, and I was super stoked with how it came out. It healed really good. It looks, really spot on to the original artwork. So I hope you like it, and
Check
I
it
hope
out.
to see a bunch more of them out there, like
Yes.
renditions of it. So I'm hoping
There you
it
go.
catches on. Maybe we should make some stickers.
That'd
So
be
in other
awesome.
words,
That would be a great sticker.
It's a great idea.
That was a tattoo that you were interested in.
Yeah, that's an interesting tattoo.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it was just, I guess it was too easy.
Yeah, it kind of was.
That's
It was
kind
right
of
out there.
yeah. So anyway, enjoy your dicks.
No, cool. Or
Well,
somebody else's.
those that are
however
in
it
the
goes.
listening audience are going to have to, go watch the video version. Of
We can we can put an 18 or older stamp or something.
I
You must be an adult to see this.
Hey,
we
you
are
can't-
tattooers.
generally anymore, because of some of the videos I watch from other people, I've just gotten to the point where I just put it up and just, if they
See.
knock it, they knock it. If they don't, they don't.
Well, we are
yeah.
tattooers and piercers, so like we
Yeah.
are 18 and up only anyway. So
And
supposed to be
not,
adult.
And to be honest, it's not tantalizing in any way, shape, or form.
No.
I don't think. Well, there's. No,
There's
you're not
always
going to
a
go
weirdo.
down there.
It's
Anyway,
artwork.
anyway, it's art.
yeah, this is not meant to be.
That used to mean something.
Yes,
used
it
to be.
used to.
Now you're just naked.
Now you're just disgusting.
You're
What
a
is that?
pervert.
Wow.
Yes.
All right,
Anyway,
we've devolved,
we've devolved into that, I guess.
accents.
So, first off, if you enjoyed this, found it useful or whatever, please like it wherever you're at. Follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll be putting more of these out right towards you.
Heads up.
Heads up, it's coming right at you. This was bought in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo in the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, because I forgot to do that at the start.
Editing.
If you like merch, you like t-shirts, and you need something for somebody on your gift list, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. Till next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single problem. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see you for your tattooing and body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Call your mom.
Be nice, guys.